to Callista LeBlanc.
Sounds pretty ridiculous,
but it's not
to be honest.
It's Gragas that will come through, which is one of the big favorites for this spot duo for the Callista. Keria loves to play the Gragas. He's so aggressive on it in the early game, and then he's great for setting up team fights later on with the Fate's Call. T1 have a standard draft, but they also have some extremely powerful picks that these players, in particular these 5, are great at. I guess you could argue maybe Kana on the Gnar isn't as impressive, but when you think about Keria's Gragas, Gumayusi coming in on the Callista, Faker's LeBlanc, this composition is so terrifying. There's a good front line to help deal with that damage when you have the set, you have the Renekton. But what I'm most worried about is Faker's ability to actually harass from a flank angle. He can poke at Umpty, he can actually threaten Henna. If there's no recourse for that, then eventually you end up losing this very slow war of attrition, I think, around these objective fights.
Yeah, I think Faker's role in this game is going to be paramount for sure, and it's not a champion that he is very comfortable with. The weak side Gnar is going to be pretty interesting as well. Obviously, he saw the entire top side of the map, and he's like, well, we're going to play Gnar, we're going to try not to die to early ganks, and just be a menace in the late game team fights, because there is a lot of engage, a lot of wombo combo you can get here on the side of T1. I think if they can cruise through the early game, as they have been doing as of late, I think things should be good for them as the game comes along. As we are getting ready to jump into match 71, game 1.
It does also, Valdez, kind of feel like the sort of game where if Fred at Brion do get an early lead, if T1 makes some mistakes, maybe they flip the game on Herald, have a big early error, and then suddenly you get this really fed Renekton online. Umpty starts to get some items up. The Felio scales well. It feels like a game that Fred at Brown could steal a win against T1 with. Like you could feel the Fredit power like kind of leaking into this draft, and it shouldn't work and it shouldn't happen on paper, but never underestimate. Yeah, it's very cinematic.
So sad. Oh, he's back. It's okay.
He's like, oh, I'm back alive. Better do a dance.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty happy as well. Getting killed and then resurrected, I suppose. Not sure about the lore behind that. But, yeah, the Lily is going to be pretty interesting as well. I mean, look at this. Futures market. Okay.
Okay.
Somebody's been watching some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Somebody's been doing their studying, And futures market can be pretty insane on mages in the lane is a lot of what we've been seeing like solo queue, and as examples, you go back very early on at level 3, you get your lost chapters, stuff like that. But picking up the tier 2 boots as a jungler very early on with the futures market is also a really cool idea. It allows you to get them around the map extremely fast.
Yeah, you're always going to be able to have that prio on the first Rift Herald, is in this case, if that's what you're going to go for. So we'll see what he ends up deciding to do, but I think that is absolutely going to be the path that he takes as the upgraded boots. Meanwhile, we didn't talk about where the Renekton goes versus where the set goes all too much, but it's not really happy either way, as you can see here for Yaharong.
Look at this win rate. What is going on?
Yeah.
We have some crazy win rates in the LCK. Like, one of them is Def's Jinx, right? It was like above 90%. And here's another one. I mean, Faker's lost 4 LCK games on LeBlanc.
And that's a lot of games played too. This is not a small number of games where you go, oh, okay, well, he's got a high win rate, but he's only played it 7 times or something like that. This is one of his, higher played champions, and it's so iconic for him because he has been so dominant on this across the years, right across the eras. And when LeBlanc returns, you feel great about that. It's like when Azir came back earlier on in spring. It's like, well, this is a great champion for Faker to have in this meta, and LeBlanc is no different. Very aggressive positioning here for Owner, but knows that with Alistar here in particular, it's just so difficult to actually commit to this dive.
Yeah. Looks like Yaharong is mostly stabilized here. Faker a little bit low on the mana, and he did go for the Doran's Ring. So should be okay to just sustain up a little bit. Definitely pretty annoying in the early levels, melee versus ranged, but that's the way it's going to go.
Here's that early back coming through from Umpty after he gets the scuttle. And it will be matched, of course, by Owner. See what he does by here. Dark Seal and Amplifying Tome actually gets a ward. So just utility usage here of the item instead of going for very early boots.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I mean, it'll obviously allow you to clear pretty fast. And, you know, if you do get an early gank off, maybe you get a couple of stacks on that Dark Seal to start.
Yeah, no, it's kind of screaming Fred Brion's playstyle out, right? Like, I get a lead, I hold on to it, and that's what I'm hoping for. And when you know you're the underdog in a series like this, you know, you might as well kind of go all in on that style and hope that you do get that advantage and hope that you can kind of snowball the game. And that is, in part, what this composition is going to be looking to do when you consider how powerful Renekton is on those first few objectives.
Yep, and here we go. The root comes down, and uh-oh, Keria is in a really rough spot. I like this angle, actually, but the flash over the wall from Umpty means he is absolutely dead, and here we go.
Here we go. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. You suddenly get the ball rolling, you know, especially if you're Lilia, right? But... Sorry, I had to throw that one out there. You start to get the ball rolling. You have a nice timing here right after he buys the Dark Seal to look for a gank, and it's perfectly set up. Delight gets the headbutt in. Really nice flash there, and that's a guaranteed pick. You also have taken away now Keria's flash, which is massive. That's a tool he's not going to have for follow-up engages, especially on these early objectives where you can flash body slam. It's all about the Gravitas. You get the Gravitum to proc, you get the stun, and then there's a follow-up. Umpty's here. He has the exact right weapon for the job. The timing here is perfect for Umpty to come down. And all according to plan here so far for Fred Brion. A great start.
Yeah, and the timing of it all, it's just so perfect. I mean, Gumayusi and Keria are really trying to exert their pressure early on in the game with this combo, especially into the Alistar, and to be able to flip the lane in that manner is just really, really nice. So we'll see if they can build off of the back of that. Looks like this early Dragon control, if owner did want to try to go for it, he could, as there is no vision on it at the moment.
No vision, and it's going to make you feel a lot more comfortable about this upcoming fight if you can just kind of sneak the Dragon away, take it for free. They have Gumayusi returning to lane now. I don't think they can actually pull this off, and Umpty is kind of aware that this is a possibility. He's going to clear this ward. And now for owner, you're just going to have to settle with the Scuttle Crab. Not going to be able to start this one up. It's too apparent. And Faker's pushing the lane pretty aggressively. This top matchup is going very well for Kana so far.
Yeah.
And like, it's a great start, as we mentioned, for Fred Brion. Now you have the upgraded boots as Umpty. It's a great start, but it's not a game-winning sort of lead by any means. But this could be what starts to lead to these first few objectives going to Fred Brion's favor. Everything else on the map is going very well for TWon. You know, the lead that you have is the Gnar. You still have a lead here in the bottom lane in terms of CS, because that's how this goes.
It's little leads, but it counts, you know. 10 CS here and there. Definitely going to be pretty nice. And other than that, just been kind of hanging out. Things are just, you know, farming swimmingly here. And, yeah, I'm curious to see if Umpty's going to go for any ganks up towards the top side with the set. I mean, I think it'll be pretty hard to lock down Faker, but you could potentially try to go for it if he uses his distortion.
Yeah.
You're able to land asleep, as Umpty did just hit level 6.
This is what I was saying before. You know, it's really scary to be anywhere.
Look at this positioning for Keria Gumayusi. This is a double knock-up, and this is going to be such an easy kill onto Keria. He is so dead.
He doesn't even have to use a sleep.
Yeah.
It's easy.
That is about as free as it gets, and now 4 stacks on the Dark Seal.
Starting to come together here as... I mean, if you're Fred Brion here, now you're like, well, this might be plates. This might be a massive advantage. You know, it's not just 2 kills onto Keria that this gains you. It gains you a lot more power elsewhere on the map. The stacks you mentioned, Umpty's getting fed. You're all in on this idea right now. And yeah, up here, you know, there's even possibilities for ganks to happen.
Wow. That is a lot of respect shown.
They don't know where Umpty is, you know, so you have to respect it. I mean, yes, owner is near, he is on the Rift Herald, but you don't know where he could be. He could be just on the other side of the wall right next to the turret because his flash is coming up soon. You got to be scared of that. Chain's
going to land here. That's his second chain. There's a lot of CC coming in onto this Renekton. He has to flash away as Faker says, nope, I got this. That's a secure win, but Bro have total control over this Rift Herald. They're going to last hit it. Umpty does pick up the eye, and now they're just trying to get away. Keria still level 5, not able to follow up there. And so maybe Yaharang just doing a little bit of distraction work And
Yeah.
they do pick up that Rift Herald.
I mean, I think Yaharong, his whole idea is I'm going to rotate in and I'm going to help fight for this, but Faker looks for the aggressive trade, and he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because he wants to rotate over and help his team. He's taken a lot of damage. He dies, but his death is not in vain, as you mentioned, and, you know, this ends up being pretty significant for Fred at Breon. The most important part of all of this is that T1 back away straight away, though. They're like, okay, we got to kill. They got the Herald. We're going to get the Drake. We're not going to waste time. We're not going to try to fight. As many LCK teams will actually just fight for that Herald regardless of positional disadvantage and then lose the fight and then lose the Drake. T1 are like, absolutely not. We'll just take the kill. That's good enough for us. It's the best scenario for us considering that Owner unfortunately kind of leashed the Rift Herald for Fred at Breon there. T1 will get out with their own advantages here. Very small gold lead until that Herald will crash. So we're going to take a look at this bottom exchange once again. Delight, there's no wards in this brush. He's got Hex Flash maximum range. Gets the double knock up here, and Umpty's here. If Umpty hits the double, he actually gets a double sleep, and that might actually be 2 kills. But instead, he doesn't even need to use it.
That's the scariest thing. And I think Yaharong had just teleported in here.
Yeah,
Kario was just waiting for it. And, well, you're just not getting away from this much stuff, basically, once you get locked down by double chains.
Pretty much the worst feeling ever, just be non-stop chain CC'd as the Renekton in this case. He's going to be fine, though, for the time being. As that was scary, with Keria being here.
Yeah, nice little dodge there with the watch out Eve as another chain's going to come in here with the Mimic, and you can see Yaharong, he's just really not having an easy time. Because after that kill, he was already down 10 CS, now he's down 30 CS, and he gave a kill to LeBlanc. We already talked about how much power this LeBlanc can have later on in the game. Like, that's definitely one of the big wins here for T1 in this early game.
T1 also has a very slippery composition, right, where it's going to be difficult to lock down. Hold that thought. Speaking of lockdown, so many minions here. I don't think you go for this. But, you know, when you look at how this team fights are going to be set up, Umpty has to really be your guaranteed setup to get into position as the Renekton, right, and as the set. Because otherwise, T1 is so slippery, right? You know, the Gnar can bounce away. You have Faker who can use his distortion, so he's very difficult to grab onto. Fate's Call going to make Keria very survivable. Owner could dash to anybody. So actually getting on top of people and setting up for combos is difficult for Fred at Breon unless Umpty hits the sleep. I'm going to drop the Rift Herald here on the top side of the map right away, but it's Henna who's here is going to pick up the gold. It's
very telegraphed. Like, they knew this was coming maybe a minute ago, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be able to pick up some plates. It's not the most ideal Rift Herald play where you go onto the turret that's taking a bit of damage and a couple of plates are down and maybe you're able to get first blood turret. But at least, you know, they're able to get some value out of that, get some plates early on here in this game.
Yeah, no, it could have been much better if T1 didn't respond, you know, as pretty textbook as they did. But they do. It's still a little bit of extra gold going over, and they're going to try to see if they can get 1 or 2 more plates up here on the top side of the map. As Faker is just trading super aggressively here.
Yeah.
As you can, very easily, right? You just use your ult to harass a second time. Decently low cooldown. Gets out right before Umpty arrives. No harm, no foul, unless you're Yaharong, in which case you're looking at your health bar feeling a little bit sad.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the matchups where T1 can look at it and say, okay, we're going to have a lead there. Like, the players as well as the champions that were picked in this one and the early dominance that Faker was able to show means that they're just going to have this lead for quite a while. And a Renekton who really struggles to hit 1 and 2 items, which is really where he loves to be, it's not going to be a happy Renekton.
But this can change very quickly. Like, this is the kind of thing that he's not so far behind. Well, his team is not so far behind to where it's impossible to expect that he ends up getting a bunch of assists in an upcoming Drake fight, for example. If T1 decide to take that and Umpty hits a nice sleep, then you have the set come in. Like, it can turn very quickly, but if it doesn't, then this Renekton ends up being very useless, unfortunately, through the mid-game and the later parts of the game. And there's only so much Umpty can do with this lead he has. It was very great, you know, when we first got the opening 2 kills. But now, you know, if he doesn't utilize this advantage in this upcoming Drake fight, or if T1 just avoid it entirely, it's hard to spread the advantage around. It's hard to spread the love to the other players that need to help carry Fred at Breon through the mid-game.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to have to show some really nice potential in the mid-game with some good setup stunts if we want to have this Renekton doing much. He did pick up his first item, the Gore Howl, so
Yeah.
Or not.
Gourd Drinker.
Gourd Drinker. Different item. Different game.
Talk about the durability of that one. No, I was like bringing it to a different game.
Whoa! I heard you like games, so you know.
Yeah. Also, the Leandries is going to be picked up here for Umpty, so it's a huge spike for him to have actually right before this Drake fight. I think T1 should really think twice about actually looking for a 5v5 here, because this is where you can give Fredit Brion the power if you actually lose the fight to actually really just kind of steamroll this game and take too big of an advantage, but they're not going to listen to my cautions. They are grouped up right now. Gummy's is going to have to deal with this wave, though. I don't really like this for T1.
Delight is just getting in there. Karia's like, well, now I have to engage. And where did the Lilia go?
Oh, no.
He just immediately dies. And that was the one guy you really had all of your gold on, right?
Yeah.
He was the one setup man, and now he's just dead. So he's going very aggressively, and down goes Lilia.
Yeah, he wanted to get back there and set up for a better sleep because he only hit one target, actually, before he wanted to set up for the sleep. So he's like, well, I'm not going to go for the solo sleep. I think it was on to Keria. We'll have to watch the replay. And then he's like, well, I'm not going to do that. I want the better sleep. So I think he even actually potentially flashed forward there. I'll have to watch the replay to see because he was kind of off camera there on the edge.
I think he flashed forward, and then I think he got kicked.
Yeah.
He
It's
just like immediately got blown up by Faker. It's like, well.
It was a pretty easy response for T1 if he's going to play that forward and look for the big sleep. So I think that could have been played a lot more slowly, given the advantages that Fredit Brion had going into that fight, especially the fact that Gumushi is having to deal with that minion wave under turret. So he has to make that tough call. So, like, look at where this is all breaking down. Like, Kalista's not here, right? Delight's like, I'm going to take this opportunity. And Umpty hits only Keria here and actually is pushed in.
Yeah, it's all Keria.
It's the cask. So it's not actually a mistake by Umpty at all. And he gets caught trying to look for that better setup there. Really heroic play from Keria. And you know what? That's how you secure a Drake. That's how you avoid taking a 5v5 team fight, is you just kill the Lilia instantly, and it's not a 5v5 team fight anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he had so much gold early on in this game, and you can see where it all went into. It's a very fast Leandries, but it doesn't matter if you're dead. Like, you know?
All your stacks are gone on your Dark Seal.
Yeah. Like, you're not going to be able to do much damage with that very quick first item from the jungle if you just die immediately, right? And kind of the core of Lilia is the Leandries, and sometimes in the past used to go double mask, but the Zhonya is so powerful that it's very common. You get that stopwatch pretty early, but that was just not gone for here by Umpty, trying to get that Leandries out early, which is understandable. But if you're going to position that far up and Keria with the great play, you're just you're not going to be able to do much.
The way that they engaged with Delight made it very difficult for Delight to peel for that engage for Umpty as well. You know, like they went all in on the idea of we're going to look for this pick straight up onto Keria, and it doesn't work out. Even without Gumusi there, it's a great fight for T1. They take a pretty big gold lead. They're now 2 Drakes the advantage, and these items are starting to come online. Everybody's got their Mythic online. You have, you know, Owner can actually look to skirmish and fight instead of actually just looking for ganks. Like, he's actually a real champion, a real threat that Umpty is going to have to respect. So will, of course, Henna. There's so many threats that Fredit Brion have to deal with if this game goes even, right? And now they're behind.
Oh, man. This is just a lane where you're never going to be happy. I mean, Yaharong doesn't get to play the game in this one. Like, he can't even enter the lane. Like, I called it a lane, but actually it's just Faker bullying a crocodile. Like,
it's really sad.
It's very mean, actually. And he's just dead.
Yep.
It's like he didn't know from the last 10 minutes of being bullied.
Well, as soon as the Luden's cooldown's back up, Faker's like, oh, well, I guess I'll kill you. And he's like, well, guess I'll die.
You said, like, oh, well, I guess I'll kill you, but it sounded like, oh, LOL, I guess I'll just kill you. And that's basically the energy with which Faker just killed him there.
I mean, Faker did it like so effortlessly, but it's also just like he's not even interested. He's like, well, if you're gonna stand there, you will die. So I will just go ahead and finish you off and push this turret.
I want to hear. This is actually one of those moments where I want to hear the voice comp. Like, I want to hear what he says. It might be a little bit too mean for our boy Yaharong, but
yeah, it's also been a little bit. You know, Faker's been very confident and a little bit cheeky. Like, it might be one of those things we're not allowed to show. Let's see.
잡았어?
got him.
바텀 뚫었다. 천천히 해.
That's it. Like, and then he says like, let's push bot slowly.
Yeah. Very straightforward, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it is. Unfortunately for Yaharong, like, if you leave there, then you lose your turret that Faker's already pushing. You lose a ton of farm, or you're already now 50 CS behind, at the time probably around 40. So it's a lose-lose situation where you're like, well, I have to be greedy and stay here and hope he doesn't kill me. That's actually like, that is where you are as Renekton. Like you said, you're just being bullied all game, like you don't get to play the game.
Yeah.
And it's a lose-lose scenario.
It really is. And Fred Brion, unfortunately, because this lane got so out of control, they don't really have a lot of options, right? We talked about the power of LeBlanc with this comp. We're already seeing it, right? But especially it's just enhanced because of how fed he is. But besides that, like, it's not like they can rotate a set into that lane, because then set just gets pulled.
Yeah, there's no recourse here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like there isn't really a way. It's also not a jungle champion that can lock down the LeBlanc, right? You know.
Jonah Strong loves to zoom in on mistakes, so yeah, I had to get that one in. It's okay. He's gonna carry the game and get POG anyway. it's fine.
But yeah, I mean, like, you can't punish this LeBlanc side laning very easily with the comp that Fred Brion have. Now we're gonna look for a 5v5 fight once again. But look at Kana's flank angle here. Does not have a Gnar bar, unfortunately, but he can get one.
Now, you know, this flank angle definitely very annoying. And Faker, he has some work to do. He has to get more poke down. We see the boomerangs as well, as Hoya just says, okay, I'm going in, guys. Yeah.
Forever alone stays true. Oh, no.
I guess that's the fate he wanted at the end of the day. And unfortunately, what that means is that everybody has to run away and just get kited down. And with the amount of mobility that T1 has, it's just going to look ugly, right?
I think there's a world where it's crazy, but before everybody just like starts pointing fingers at Hoya here, like, yes, there was definitely a huge disconnect between him and his team, but yeah, he had the ability to taxi in to try to put the pressure on the Faker. I think there is a world where if everybody uses their flashes, because everyone on Fred Brion does have flash, they flash in and follow the engage. You have Moonlight Vigil, like, there's a world where that actually works, I think. But clearly, it needed a lot more pre-planning and a lot more communication and coordination than what we just saw. And so as a result, he goes in alone, is instantly focused down, and Fred and Brion are like, well, I don't think we discussed this.
Yeah. What we saw was a man going rogue. He's a lone wolf in the true sense of the word.
Look at the positioning of everybody else. Like, if you actually follow up on this, it's kind of, I think it's possible. Look, everybody's turned on Kana. And if everybody tries to go forward, I mean, the thing is, it's a fat wall. Like, you don't have any vision.
Yeah,
like, I'm trying to give him,
kicks away the Renekton. It's like, wow.
I'm trying to give him a little bit more credit here than I think he's due, but I don't know.
It's okay.
It's not a good look, but the idea, I could see what he was thinking. It was not correct, however.
Yeah. And unfortunately for Fred Brion, you know, they have been on a little bit of a struggle streak as of recent times. I think we're seeing a little bit of the continuation of that here up against T1, who obviously came to play. They're not taking Fred Brion lightly by any means, and they're absolutely pummeling them now. Like, this is not going to be pretty towards the end of this game, guys.
No, it's not. And I mean, we haven't talked about the fact that Hoya has also been bullied, not to the same level as Yaharong has, but 2 losing lanes does not lead to victory unless you can win those early fights, right? With a comp like this, you're just going to have no power on the map. And I mean, I think the winning play actually was from Keria. Like, Faker's going to get POG, but Keria getting that winning cask is actually all they needed.
Yeah.
Big sleep.
Here we go again. The Fate's Call is massive. The sleep, we'll see if it can do anything. The damage is trying to be used here as we do get the kill onto Keria, and Faker and Owner a little bit zoned away. Gumayusi's like, wait, where's my team?
He still kills Yaharong.
And you know what? I mean, he's kiting pretty nicely here, but the flash comes in, and now he should be dead. As he does come in, and Owner says, well, maybe me and Faker can get something done. Faker's going to come in and get the kill, and he does not go back to where he started. So Hoya not able to follow up on that one. A very messy and all over the place fight.
T1 just making it more interesting for us, you know. It looks a little bit too easy if they don't overextend for a second and then carry a really epic trade.
Yeah. Umpty with the question mark ping. I like that. Yeah. That's the way you can question mark ping your enemies, by the way, guys. You get that emote. Thank you, Riot, for that one. That's very useful.
Favorite Froggy. This is a really nice engage for Umpty, right? He sets up for the triple sleep, and this is a really nice punch. But we talked about this, and I was really leading into how difficult it is to actually catch these targets for T1. Like, the fact that Fate's Call exists means that their main target is already out of the picture. They do end up getting the pick onto Keria, you know, regardless. But it's so easy to disengage as T1, and then the mobility that you're going to watch here is just insane. Owner comes in, ends up doing all of his damage that he can, which is enough to actually get Henna down, who's greedily trying to push the wave. So it ends up being a trade back here for T1. Still great for Frederick Brion. It gets to the situation we're in right now. But they're going to need a few more of those miraculous sleeps for Umpty before this is going to be a win. I don't know if that's realistic. Does finish his Banshee's Veil now.
They have some pretty decent wombo combo, and if T1 get out of position a couple more times, you could definitely see it happening. But yeah, I think T1, that was a pretty big oof for them, because it's right at the end of their Baron push. They really wanted to try to at least break the inhibitor turret, but they weren't able to do that. And yeah, Faker's really getting in the face, trying to push him down, trying to stop the rotation, and Kana is casually just taking an inhibitor by himself.
I mean, he's got Demolish, so he's like, just give me some time and I'll do some work here. This is the unofficial Baron buff, is my runes, and we are going to kill this inhibitor. Because it's a lose-lose situation as Frederick Brion. You lose your inhibitor, or you lose your bottom turrets, which is a ton of gold. And they're going to group for the turret instead. Nobody can stop Kana. I mean, if you look at the level difference alone between Kana and Yaharong, it's just comical to imagine you could stop him. And he's not done. Like, look at the minimap.
Yeah. Kana's like, well, you're not going to send more than one person over. I guess I'll just keep pushing. There's some pings. There's a ward in the mid lane, maybe looking to try to use that to flank, but it would have to be Hoya. And even the two of them, I mean, it's not going to be an easy play to kill the Meganar here. So they're just going to group up as 4, try to stop this, as Kana in Meganar actually becomes a little bit harder to siege the turrets.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to do much more there, but gets a lot of value nonetheless. And I mean, Lilia has been changed a little bit. Her E is on a longer cooldown. It's really difficult to actually find opportunities to have those big sleeps on this patch. You know, she is buffed, technically speaking, overall, but it's really hard to have, you know, to constantly threaten those bowling balls, the swirl seeds that can lead to a really nice fight. And on top of that,
you know the actual name of the ability?
Yeah, I had to say it. You know, sometimes I have to say it. I think it's called swirl seed. I'm like 99% sure. Sometimes I don't want to say bowling ball.
No, that's bowling ball, and the second Rift Herald is only sure of that.
But yeah, you have less chances to hit multiple sleeps, and T1's positioning has actually been so good to prevent multi-sleeps. Actually, throughout the entirety of that bottom push, they were just not going to allow him an engage opportunity. He has stopwatch now, so he can like even flash in if he wants to, but look at the positioning once again for T1. They're not going to flip the game on this. They're like, okay, well, you're a little bit better set up to take this Drake, so we'll let you do so and push the inhibitor. Like, this is great play from T1. This is such fantastic play. They slow down the Drake take, and they're just playing the macro game. Kana.
Ooh, look at that max range cask, although it is onto an Alistair, so maybe not the best, but we do have Fate's Call. Unfortunately, now Gumayusi's not in a great spot. He's trying to kite it out, but he will go down. And that's a trade they will take, but at the same time, I mean, this is like the thorn in their side that they just cannot find.
This is the last game of Kana's promos. And
this is the splinter under the skin.
Kana's like, I will win this game and my team be down.
I don't care if you guys are fighting. I'm just going to split push and end it.
And it's even with the pick, it doesn't matter. They're just so far ahead.
Uh-oh. Well, Kenna's dead. That was scary. Wouldn't have wanted to have been Aphelios in that one. As, yeah, I think they're just going to take it here. Just some passive play. They let the dragon go down. They slowly kite it out, take the entire base, and Faker says, let me just get one more kill onto the Crocodile. Not going to be able to do so. 27.5 minutes, T1 take a pretty straightforward win. There were a couple of nice moments on the engages from Frederick Brion, but it was a little bit too little.
Delight.
Too late.
Yeah, Delight doing